Welcome back to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and today we will study a very important lesson that pertains to family accountability. Accountability, what does it really mean? You tell a child, get out of bed, get ready for school, take out the trash, do your homework, get off the computer right now. Most parents will simply say these things are measures of a child's obedience to adults. But it may also be a measure of accountability learned. To what degree have the adult caregiver really modeled accountability or adherence to directions? So when you look at parental responsibility and teaching accountability, a greater question might be, are some of the defiant behaviors or what may appear to be defiant behaviors actually an extension of what the child has learned in terms of what accountable behavior really appears to be? Children account for what they have accounted. In other words, accounting is simply coming to a total, reaching a result, determining an amount, determining a value for it. So children determine value, determine accountability based on what they have observed as accountability, coming from many times the parental significant care provider's model. A colleague of ours, Dr. Tony Roach in Abilene, Texas, the author of God's Love Bank, wrote the following: what you see is what you say. What you say is what you sow. What you sow is what you reap. What you reap is what you are. What you are is what you give. What you give is what you get. And what you get is what you deserve. No more, no less. Well, what is Dr. Roach really talking about? Children are observers. So what you see in your child is what you have said, and what your child sees, how they see the world, is how they communicate about the world. And unless the parent has taught a child a proper way of processing the world around them, then what do you expect for your child to say about the world around them? So what you say becomes what you broadcast, what you put, the current term is, what you put into the atmosphere. So children learn accountability by how they observe adults put things into the atmosphere. And what you put into the atmosphere, in other words, what you sow, is what you must reap from the atmosphere. That's accountability. You cannot expect something out of the environment that you have not helped put into an environment. Specifically, we're talking about the environment of a child. And what you reap is really what you are. You are going to always reap what you sow. But the myth of that is you always reap more than you sow. You never reap just one seed planted in the ground. You never reap just one plant. You are expected a bountiful harvest. So when you sow a little into your child's life, you're going to reap a lot of something. Now, that something of quality and that something of quantity is what is questionable. But the accountability is still in place. You as a parent, the children as the one dependent on the parent, are really accountable to what is sown into the life of that child, because whatever you reap is what you are, and what you are is what you're going to give. No one can give what they do not possess. So in accountability, children are going to be the recipients of what you give them as a parent, and then the child developmentally is going to give what you've given them back into the lives of those individuals that they come in contact with. And whatever you give your child is going to be what you get from your child multiplied. And whatever you give to your child, they're going to give it to somebody else. And then you're going to reap a harvest. That's what you're going to get. The challenge is, whatever you get as a parent in terms of accountability is going to be what you deserve. It may not be what you really want, but it's going to be the product of what you have put into the life of the child. In terms of social cognitive theories, Albert Bandura determined that social skills and abilities are based first upon observation and an ability to develop a cognitive mapping or imprinting of representations based upon the expectations as understood as a result of the social cognitive skills developed within the child. In other words, observation of behaviors, that's going to be accountable. So whatever the child observes from the adults, who are the teachers, we talked about the parent responsibility on yesterday. Secondly, observations of consequences of others. In other words, when children see that there are no consequences for the adult caregiver's behaviors, or if they see that the consequences appear to be more positive than negative, then the child is going to become accountable in relationship to how they have processed cognitively the results of what the teacher, the parent, is doing. Individual refinement is another part of the social cognitive development theory. So when you look at the individual refinement, the adjustment, the modifications, the implications, or the rejection of what was modeled, the child is going to account for what they have learned, what they have absorbed from the adult teacher's accountability, and they're going to either refine it, they're going to adjust it, they may modify it based on, is this going to be detrimental or positive? But keep in mind, the development of a child in terms of their cognitive processing is going to be driven to a large degree by their observation of the parental consequences of behavior. So if you want your child to learn, to refine, and to adjust and to modify behavior, it's probably going to necessitate a modeling of accountability from the primary caregiver, the parent. In the book of Luke, chapter 6, verses 44 through 45, many times accountability becomes a chip off the old block. But the old block and the chip that fell off of it becomes another tree. So the chip is going to grow. Listen at the text of Luke chapter 6. Every tree is known by his own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of a bramble bush gather they grapes. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his